Good morning. Today we are Monday, June 8th, and we have started a new week. And the liturgy of today presents us with, for a few days, the first book of Kings. The prophet Elijah will accompany us for a few days, and we will see how God is at his side, caring for him, like he does for each one of us. We read in the Gospel of Matthew, and that for the whole week, the famous Sermon on the Mount, which covers 3 chapters, chapter 5, chapter 6, and chapter 7. It is a jewel of composition, one of the best known texts of the biblical literature, particularly the one proposed to our meditation for this day, the Beatitudes. When he writes his gospel in Antioch of Syria, most likely, Matthew collects from various sources teachings of Jesus and, like a patchwork or a puzzle, presents to the reader a selection of famous sayings of Jesus in order to present a bright picture to the believers about discipleship. He has in front of him a diverse community. Greek-speaking Jews who have fled Jerusalem after the persecutions and the destruction of the temple, but also God-fearing Gentiles who are likes to follow the Jewish traditions. We are about 40 years after Jesus returned to the Father. There is already a tradition among the Jewish Christians, and Matthew wants to comfort them and bring them to a deeper commitment as disciples of Christ. What he has in mind in composing that Sermon on the Mount is this: to show that Jesus has not come to abolish the law, but to bring it to its perfection. So we will see many references to the Old Testament, and Jesus will be presented as a reformer of Judaism. The Jews who have come to believe in him are not less Jews. They are Reformed Jews. The second goal of the sermon is to show that God has fulfilled his promise to give a Savior to his people. And that Savior is Jesus of Nazareth. From now on, the notion of people of God is extended to all men of goodwill who will accept Jesus as Lord and Redeemer. So this collection of sayings of Jesus will be a chart of Christian living, demanding, for sure, but not out of reach. For those following what Jesus taught, there is a promise of happiness and peace at heart. Let us come now to the Beatitude, the gospel of this day. It is a marvelous text presenting 8 attitudes to the disciple who want to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. They describe how blessings are given to the one who follows this path of happiness. We can divide them in 2 parts. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven, is at the beginning and at the end. So the first 4 blessings are: blessed are the poor, the Gentiles, those who mourn, those who hunger and thirst for justice. These Beatitudes receive a passive form of the verb. They shall be comforted. They shall be satisfied. In the Jewish tradition, out of reverence, the name of God is not pronounced. So it means that God will comfort them, God will give them the kingdom of heaven. It can be noticed that contrary to the gospel in Luke, the Beatitudes in the Gospel of Luke, Matthew does not speak about those who are economically poor, but those who are humiliated in society. Indeed, Jesus always cares, heals, and hangs around with those who are destitute or sinners. These are the one that God protects and to whom he offers eternal salvation. These four Beatitudes have something in common. They speak about the happiness that is given to those who open their hearts to God in humble trust and non-violent mind. The next four Beatitudes are directed to the behavior of the disciple, to be merciful, to have a pure heart, to be peacemaker, and to search for righteousness. To these is promised that they shall see God and be called sons of God. A ninth beatitude expands on those who will be persecuted in defending the rights of God, like Jesus was. They are blessed not because they are persecuted, but because they totally identified themselves with Jesus, who suffered passion and death while he was innocent of any crime. We also want to follow Jesus in a radical way. That could bring us to be irrelevant to the values of this world. We have to make a choice and consistent with our own core convictions. Either our treasure is the gospel in all of its requirements, or we choose the trend which is fashionable in our society. But to become a prophet, just like Elijah was, like the first Christians experienced, is a radical choice indeed, which entails the promise of the Lord's blessings. Happy are we if we follow that path.